Tom Campbell has served the Sports Car Club of America in a variety of capacities at the regional, divisional, and national level for both SCCA Inc. and SCCA Pro Racing. Tom is a longtime member of the Mohawk Hudson Region, beginning as a competition driver and as an engineer by training, has built and maintained a number of championship caliber race cars. Campbell served 2 terms on the SCCA Board of Directors, including as treasurer and chairman, and at the regional and divisional level, he was chairman of the Northeast Division. He served as SCCA Pro Racing Chairman of the board before becoming president and CEO of the subsidiary and leading it through a period of financial stability. Tom oversaw the first set of Spec Miata rules for inclusion in the GCR and was instrumental in the move of the SCCA archives to its current home at the International Motor Racing Research Center in Watkins Glen, New York. And tonight, we welcome Tom Campbell to the SCCA Hall of Fame.
Tom's legacy with the club is on all of the levels. It's in competition, it's in leadership, it's in management. He started as a competitor. He was a race car driver, driving GT1 cars, production cars. As a builder, building race cars for himself and actually putting podium finishing cars at the runoffs that he built with his brother. So he's talented as a competitor, as a car constructor. As a steward in the Northeast Division, Tom was recognized as a very capable steward when he joined the stewards program. In leadership positions in the Northeast Division, both as the president of the Native Council, or the chairman of the Native Council, which was the organization that managed the operations of the Northeast Division, which used to be and continues to be a fairly important organization for training, for scheduling, for managing the affairs in our little end of the world up here. And also when the majors debuted, in chairing the Major Steering Committee, which went a long way in ending some of the, let's just describe them as the provincial infighting among regions that happens everywhere, to the benefit of our schedule and to the benefit of all of our competitors. And Tom was really key in making that organization run smoothly. He obviously served on the board of directors, was elected for Area 10, an area that I was honored to serve as a director for several years after he left. As the treasurer of SCCA Incorporated, and then as chairman of the board. And those appointments, those positions carry with them a whole lot of responsibility. It's a lot of work. And I know. And Tom really well served the organization there. And then he went on to take a leadership position with SCCA Pro Racing. And he really put us in an extraordinarily good position, a safe position, where Pro functioned very well and didn't get tangled up in projects that would have dragged us down a bit. And it wasn't an easy time for Tom, because some of the series that were under management by SCCA Pro then were led by somewhat incendiary people. And Tom was up to the battle. And we managed to get through that time very successfully. And so Tom should be honored for his contributions to SCCA Pro Racing when he was the president of SCCA Pro. I've known Tom for a couple of decades. when I was a competitor, when I was in steward positions, when I was on the board of directors. And Tom was, although incredibly quiet, he was also professional and focused in everything that he did. He would challenge you on things he didn't agree with. And Tom and I consider him a friend. I think he considers me a friend, but we didn't always agree. And we sometimes had very different views of the world. And, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't get along and get to a place where we could move forward. I know some of the folks that Tom worked with at Pro, and some of the leaders and owners in those Pro series. And for example, I talked to Tony Ave, and Tony was in an ownership position with Trans Am a number of years ago. And Tony has said, Tom and he are good friends now. But back when Tom was running Pro and Tony was one of the owners and leadership, a leader in Trans Am, Tom was a very formidable presence, and he had a very strong personality. And as Tony put it, you really didn't want to be in a negotiation with him because he would not back down. He had a strength of vision that was not wishy-washy, and that's, I think, what we all respect Tom for. That he usually has really strong, solid reasons for the decisions that he's made. And I think I said this before, he's quiet, but he's very professional and incredibly focused in what he does. During my time on the board, the archives, the SCCA archives, our historical record was sort of in limbo. It was in storage in a number of storage units in Indianapolis, but wasn't organized and wasn't really carefully stored. It was locked up and secured, but we knew that we needed to do something with it. And we had a number of options, and ultimately the club chose to move the archives to the Motor Racing Research Center in Watkins Glen, which is a terrific location for it, because it's a research library. It's not a museum. It's not a lockbox. It's a research center. And we knew it was going to be a big project to move it. And at the time, I was chairman of the board, and I asked Tom if he could be the project manager for moving the archives from Indianapolis to Watkins Glen. And that was a big job. And it wasn't a glamour job. Managing the move of what turned out to be 2 tractor trailer loads, packed nose to tail, floor to ceiling, full of documents, archives, records, all the bits and pieces that had been collected by our club members and submitted to our then historian, Peter Hill. And Tom willingly accepted that job, and he did it extraordinarily well. Ultimately, sometime later, it all arrived at the archival and storage facilities at the IMRRC, and the archive work there begun and continues to this day. And that's really a tribute to Tom having the time and taking the interest, because he knew what was in that archive. It's all of our racer DNA. It's all of our little bits and pieces of every competitor in this club that's recorded there. So it's all our stuff. And so if you feel that archive is important and you want to honor Tom's legacy with the club, I'd just like to suggest maybe you make a donation to the SCCA Foundation in Tom's honor, directed toward supporting the archive project of the SCCA archives at the IMRRC. Oftentimes people are inducted into various halls of fame because they're a star, or they gained notoriety by winning championships. But I think it's really appropriate that Tom is being inducted into the SCCA Hall of Fame. because he's touched so many parts of this organization, as a competitor, as an official, as a leader in the organization, both in the club side and in SCCA Pro, and for all of the contributions he's made to the Northeast Division, to club racing in general. He's really the model for what a member should be in participating in all the bits and pieces of this club. So I want to congratulate Tom, and I'm glad Tom and Carol can be honored in 2021 for his induction into this year's class in the Hall of Fame.
Good evening, and my most profound gratitude to the Hall of Fame committees for this incredible honor. As I look back over the past half century, three things stand out as the important parts of my life: my family, my professional career, and the Sports Car Club of America. I must start by thanking my wife, Carol, for all her support. We've been married for over 50 years, and racing has been part of the family experience for practically all that time. In the early years, it was camping at the racetracks out of the back of a station wagon with three young boys. We still talk about the boys playing with their toy trucks in the gravel pit that was Breyer Motorsports Park, and camping in the snow at Watkins Glen at one of the Fun One races back in 1970s. Later, it was tolerating my time in the shop, working on the race cars, and picking up the load at home when I was away at the races or the many conventions and meetings, especially during the 4 years at Pro Racing, during which I was living half-time in Topeka. None of this could have happened without Carol being part of the team. My professional career lasted for over 40 years at one of the Department of Energy's national laboratories in support of the Navy's nuclear power program. I'm a naval architect and marine engineer by education. My career was in engineering management in many intense, challenging, and rewarding positions. Through a broad range of assignments and much formal training, I developed the management and organizational skills that not only led to a successful career, but which I could bring to other parts of my life as well. After my family and my career, my life's history has been about the Sports Club of America, a relationship that has lasted over 45 years. I started racing to feed my competitive nature and to challenge myself as an engineer and mechanic, and racing is still fulfilling those needs. But the club has been more than just a lifetime hobby. It has become a part of my extended family. My best friends are guys I started racing with in 1975. I have good friends all over the country, people I've raced with, served with on committees and boards, and met at the conventions and other venues. Friends I look forward to seeing each year. And of course, I continue adding new members to my SCCA family each year. My service to the club started shortly after I joined. The Mohawk Hudson Region needed a membership chairman. I could do that, and it would be a good way to meet the other members and to learn how the organization was put together. That first opportunity was the beginning of my long SCCA management career. So the club has not only been an extension of my family, but also an extension of my professional career. As I said, it is the skills and experiences I developed in my professional career that have allowed me to better serve the club in so many ways. The club activities have expanded those skills and the management experience and provided important training, which allowed my growth and development as a successful manager in my professional career as well. Looking back, I realized that much of the time I was managing my professional career and my SCCA career in tandem. I have so many memories collected over these many years. As chairman of the board, I had the honor of cutting the ribbon to open the new headquarters building in Topeka. As president of Pro Racing, I attended the ACUS meetings with the likes of Jim France, Mike Helton, Scott Atherton, Nick Craw, and many of the other leaders in the motorsports industry. Shortly after I left the board of directors, I was asked to chair the first Spec Miata ad hoc committee. I wrote the first set of rules to go into the GCR, reconciling 4 separate sets of rules from around the country. Whenever I went to pro races, I became the designated pace car driver. I remember one year at a World Challenge race in St. Petersburg, I led the most laps and was the first car under the checkered flag. However, they gave the trophy to the guy behind me. Perhaps one of my most significant accomplishments was putting together the deal in 2012 with Tony Ave, Jim Derhog, and their group of investors to ensure the survival of the Trans Am Series, which I am pleased to say is thriving today. While I am proud of what I've been able to do for the club, I am at the same time grateful to the club for not only giving me a lifetime avocation, but for contributing to my personal development over these decades. SCCA has done much more for me than I will ever be able to repay. I look forward to continuing to serve the club in whatever capacity I can. That is what family members do. This award will have a central position in my trophy case, not as something I have earned in competition, but as a symbol of the affection and esteem shared with my SCCA family. It is, of course, disappointing that we can't share this evening in person, but please know that I have a pocket full of hugs and handshakes to share when I next see you this summer. Again, I thank you for being part of my family and for this wonderful honor. Good evening.